The Everglades is a test. If we pass, we may get to keep the planet. This Everglades restoration plan is already the model for, it's kind of a blueprint for plans to restore the Chesapeake Bay, the Great Lakes, Louisiana's coastal wetlands that you heard so much after Hurricane Katrina. A lot of the history of the Everglades is how they tried to reclaim it, to improve it, was the word they always use. You know, they'd say, even if the plan isn't perfect, I'd say, but it's not even good. They'd say, but even if the plan isn't perfect, we've got to pass it because, you know, because delay is the greatest enemy of the Everglades. And I think that's kind of a crock. You know, I think, you know, paving over the Everglades is the greatest enemy of the Everglades. Delay is, you know, it's not great, but better. I would have said it would have been better to kind of maybe wait a little bit and do a plan that would actually fix things. Well, I think that's true. I think it's hard to deny that. And Marjorie herself, you know, when the Army Corps came up with their, you know, the Central and Southern Florida project, which, you know, was this magnificent 2,000 miles of levees and canals, and it was this plan to kind of make, you know, South Florida, you know, livable and farmable, but also was supposed to save the Everglades. It was called a conservation plan, and Marjorie said it was the first scientific, well thought out plan the Everglades has ever known. 20 years later, she said, what a liar I turned out to be. So, you know, she recognized that there were a lot of people with really good intentions. I think it was, you know, the idea of draining the Everglades and improving the Everglades was a very progressive idea. It was conservationists who saw conservation was the opposite of waste, and wetlands were wastelands. Now, there have been plenty of heroes in the Everglades, and there still are. And I think, you know, there's no doubt that attitudes have changed. The voters' attitudes have changed. The politicians' attitudes have changed. You know, no politician today would dream of saying that they didn't love the Everglades. People are always talking about tipping points. The Everglades has been dying for a very long time, and it will probably continue to die for at least a little while longer. What's more important than getting something done tomorrow so that you can cut a ribbon and declare victory, I think, is really getting something done, you know, putting in the structure in place that will really produce consistent, progressive change in the Everglades. You know, we don't, Senator Graham and I don't agree on everything, but I'm a gigantic admirer, and I think he is a great example of somebody who, you know, who has his heart in the right place and is a smart guy and is interested in the actual policies, as opposed to just reading a talking points, can make a tremendous difference. And there, you know, he was a real visionary. He's a guy who went to Washington to get something done. And the result, I think, is that in many ways he was heroic. He was the guy who really was the driving force behind the Everglades Coalition, behind the first Everglades restoration project, the Modified Waters Delivery Project. He was the driving force behind the Kissimmee Restoration Project, which is the first time the Army Corps of Engineers ever did restoration work. So he really helped, you know, he started to turn around that agency. And before, when he was just a state senator, he helped push those Florida's growth management laws, which are actually really great laws. They've sort of been, you know, ignored for 30 years, but that's not Bob's fault. So again, I think, you know, for people interested in public policy, I think that's one of the lessons.